The City of Berkeley. Ms. Prince, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Baker.
Here.
Councilmember Blanchard.
Here.
Councilmember Kadeco.
Here.
Councilmember Platt-Onson.
Here.
Councilmember Stedman.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Turbrack.
Here.
Mayor O'Dwyer.
Here. The first order of business is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Stedman.
Support.
Support by Councilmember Kadeco. Are there any changes, additions? Hearing, seeing none. Ms. Prince, would you please call the roll?
Blanchard.
Yes.
Kadeco.
Yes.
Platt-Onson.
Yes.
Stedman.
Yes.
Turbrack.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. And I don't see anyone here for the invocation, so would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move the flag.
And now we come to the citizens' comments portion of tonight's meeting, when you may present your thoughts on issues not included on the agenda. Council members will not engage you in discussion. If your concern needs to be addressed by a member of city staff or a department of the city, please sign your name on the sheet provided at the clerk's desk. You may speak on a specific agenda item when it is being considered. When you come to the microphone, please state your name and city of residence.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Hof, and I live in Berkeley. My family has lived on the 4000 block of Phillips Avenue for the last 8 years. I'm here today for two reasons: to bring to your attention the increase in the rat problems in our neighborhood, and to seek increased action from the city to aid in the control of the problem. Over the past 3 years, we have seen an increase in the number of sightings of rats in our neighborhood. We have also spoken with many of our neighbors, and they have also been bothered by this problem. From rats to rat droppings on porches, to infestations in garages, to also dead rats in the streets and the sidewalks. We have experienced this nuisance personally, and have also spent almost $1,500 to fix the problems that these vermin have caused us. From the cost of an exterminator and the hazardous waste cleanup crew from our basement when one established residence in our drop ceiling after chewing through the side of our house, to purchasing dozens of rat traps and poison, and most recently incurred a $300 vet bill when our dog sustained 9 puncture wounds from a rat attack. As this problem affects the health, economy, and quality of life for our Berkeley residents, I ask that we really begin solving this problem. I feel that more attention needs to be given to this issue by holding all residents accountable for abiding by the city's ordinances, while also working with high-problem area residents to reduce the number of vermin in those areas. I realize that this issue will not go away overnight, but as a tax-paying voter, I would like to see more done. As everything is take care of itself, how do we control it if others aren't doing their jobs? I appreciate your time and consideration in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing nobody else coming to the microphone, then we move on to the consent agenda. Ms. Prince, would you please read the items on tonight's consent agenda?
Yes. Item number 1, approval of the minutes. Matter of approving the minutes of the regular city council meeting on June 3rd, 2013. Item number 2, approval of the warrant. Matter of approving warrant number 1267. Item number 3, ordinance 0213. Matter of approving the second reading of Chapter 106, Streets, Sidewalks, and Other Public Places, Article 2, Obstructions, Division 1, generally of the Berkeley City Code to add new section 106-51, bicycle racks. And item number 4, proclamation P1113. Matter of approving a proclamation recognizing July 2013 as Parks and Recreation Month.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Blanchard.
Support.
Support by Councilmember Kadeco. Ms. Prince, would you please call the roll on the consent agenda?
Kadeco?
Yes.
Platt-Onson?
Yes.
Stedman?
Yes.
Turbrack?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Blanchard?
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. Now we move to the regular agenda. Please read item number 1 on tonight's regular agenda.
Recognitions and presentations. Matter of any recognitions or presentations from the consent agenda.
I've asked Mayor Pro Tem Dan Turbrack to read Proclamation 1113.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A proclamation of the Council of the City of Berkley, Michigan, proclaiming July as Parks and Recreation Month. Whereas parks and recreation programs are an integral part of our communities throughout this country, including the City of Berkley. And whereas our parks and recreation are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our communities, ensuring the health of all citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of a community and region. And whereas parks and recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, provide therapeutic recreation services for individuals with mental or physical disabilities, and also improve the mental and emotional health of all citizens. And whereas parks and recreation programs increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas parks and recreation areas are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community. And whereas parks and natural recreation areas improve water quality, protect groundwater, prevent flooding, improve the quality of the air we breathe, provide vegetative buffers to development, and produce habitat for wildlife. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and to recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month. And whereas the City of Berkley recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources. Now therefore, the City of Berkley proclaims, Section 1, that the Council of the City of Berkley hereby proclaims July as Parks and Recreation Month and encourages all citizens to celebrate healthy, active lifestyles by participating in their choice of parks and recreation activities. Introduced and passed at a regular City Council meeting on Monday, June 17th, 2013. Phil O'Dwyer, Mayor.
Thank you. And now, Ms. Prince, would you please read item number 2 on tonight's agenda?
Motion number M3113, matter of approving the 2013 summer maintenance agreement between the Road Commission for Oakland County and the City of Berkley.
Is there a motion to approve M3113?
Motion to approve M3113.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Stedman,
Support.
support by Councilmember Blanchard. Mr. Sessom.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. The first item that I have before you is something that you're very familiar with, something that appears to you on a regular basis, and all we're asking is for the City Council to approve this agreement, which has been reviewed by the City Attorney and is also recommended for your consideration as well. Now, our Public Works Director, Mr. Derek Schuler, is here, and he's to give us just a brief summary of what this contract is all about. Good evening.
Thank you. This is the typical agreement that the City of Berkley has entered into for several years. Basically, we get reimbursed by the Road Commission for the street sweeping that we perform on 12 Mile Road. So this is the agreement every year that sort of highlights that and gives the unit rates and the number of sweepings that we get reimbursed for, which is in this case 3 sweepings. The unit price per curb mile has gone up this year, so that's something that to note. Even though we sweep it more than 3 times, we're more in the, I would guess, 10 to 15 range pretty easily. It is still good for us to take advantage of this reimbursement, given that we expect a high level of service for that specific area. This is also important because we have started the DDA summer maintenance downtown, and we're coordinating with that contractor with the street sweeping so that when they perform their work, we're following behind with the street sweepers so that we don't have the debris in the street for a long period of time. So this is the same agreement that we have entered into for some time, and I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Any questions, discussion on this topic? I think this is a regular item every year, so I think everybody in council is familiar with this item. So seeing none, then Ms. Prince, would you please call the roll?
Clyde Onson,
Yes.
Stedman,
Yes.
Turbrack,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Blanchard.
Yes.
Kadeco.
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. Now,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Prince, would you please read item number 3 on tonight's agenda?
Motion number M3213, matter of authorizing the city manager or her designee to purchase official Dream Cruise merchandise at wholesale for a cost not to exceed $35,000 and sell it at full retail.
Is there a motion to approve M3213?
Move to approve M3213.
Moved by Councilmember Cadeckel,
Support.
support by Councilmember Stedman. Ms. DeSessa.
And Council, again, I cannot believe it's that time again. I say that every year. Just time goes by so quickly. Our cruise, Dream Cruise or Cruise Fest committee is all ready and set and been working for quite a while this year already to begin our festivities. However, this is part of our fundraising activities, and we are recommending it for council's consideration. To give us some more information on exactly what these funds will be used for is the chair of our committee, Mr. Mark Kuhn. Good evening.
Good
Thank you
evening.
for coming.
Sure,
Can you
thank
just
you.
please give the council a brief explanation?
Sure.
Thank you.
What we do every year is we sell, as you know, Dream Cruise merchandise up on Woodward during the week before through the event. And half of that money is split between the city and community service groups in the area that help us by selling that. For many of those groups, such as the Berkley Junior Women's Club, the Youth Assistance, Tri-Community Coalition, for some of those groups, it's their largest fundraiser of the year. So it works out really well for them. It works out really well for us because we get to get rid of the merchandise. I prepared a sheet for you like I have every year, which is basically a cost analysis, shows you break even on it, and it really hasn't changed from year to year. It's really close. I was looking back because I've got some of the older ones, and back in 2010, we only needed to sell 38% of the merchandise to break even. This year, it's 42. It's a little bit higher, but it's about the same as it was last year. So we have actually not had a problem in the last several years selling it, because the merchandise, the logos look really good. They've been really creative with the merchandise. This year, we have a new merchandiser, which is one that we had way back when, which is EA Graphics. And they've done a really good job. There's a number of other shirts because it's basically a GM-sponsored event with Chevrolet doing it, so they have a GM car or a Chevrolet car on there. But they've done a really good job at trying to satisfy everyone, because there's people that have Fords and Chryslers and other cars that they really don't necessarily want to buy a shirt with a Chevy on it. It's just one of those things. But they have several new shirts that are really good because it'll just have the logo on it without the car, and people will tend to buy that because, I mean, experiencing it firsthand, you're out there and you kind of get that banter back and forth, but there's a number of people that will have a Ford Mustang or have a Chrysler, a Sebring or something like that, and they'll buy one of the other shirts because they still get, a commemorative item of the event, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a Chevrolet on it for them. So, and in that regard, we actually are asking for a little bit more this year. It was, in the past years, we've had asked for $32,000. This year, we're asking for $35,000. And mostly that's because there is a wider range of shirts that we can buy, and we would like to, spin off into that little bit wider range to try and see how it's going to go. And really how we're going to do it is we're going to order the bulk of the merchandise before then. Since we do a pre-sale every year, we start the week before, and EA Graphics will be in operation through Dream Cruise, is that we'll be able to get a feel for that first weekend of how things are going, and then order the rest of the little bit that we hold back to see how that goes. Or if we don't need it, if it looks like sales are flat, then we won't order anything. But, I think that we work really hard, and Tom and us work really hard at trying to make sure that we keep a real close handle on that. I mean, for the last several years, virtually on the night that we have finished, on the day we have finished, we've walked away and there's no extra merchandise. And it's all been for profit. Part of that is because Mr. Sabuda worked real hard last year at getting us the opportunity to use credit cards, which helps a lot, which I know that we're going to do again this year, which is going to be a great thing. So with that being said, that's basically it. We need to sell about 42% of the merchandise to break even. We usually do that by about Thursday before the event. And then after that, it's all downhill, so to speak. So if you have any other questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Kuhn? Mr. Cadeckel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Kuhn. It's comment than a question. I know that the committee's been working really hard and diligent at making sure that this year's another success. I want to thank you, the committee, Mr. Carwell, Parks and Recreation, Administration. Everyone is just working well together, and this year we're only going to have one band, and it's going to be great. It's called the Magic Bus, and they're real popular, and I want to thank DTE Energy for their sponsorship this year. It's going to be a fun night, and I hope everyone comes out and the weather will be like tonight, hopefully. Thank you.
Yep, DTE Energy will be having their booth downtown again this year, and they're going to be doing some pretty neat things from what they've been talking about. So, and they're going to be trying to get people to sign up for energy analysis of their home, and they're going to be giving away, I believe it's a house full of LED lights, which, if you've actually went out and priced them, they're pretty expensive. So, it's going to be pretty neat. And the Magic Bus will be playing from 7:30 until 11, and they are basically a Woodstock tribute type band, so it's going to be really fun. They get all dressed up in all of their garb and the psychedelic jazz and stuff, so it should be something to see. I've heard them before, they're very good, so.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Great.
Well, certainly, Mark, we'd like to thank you for the care you take with these numbers and the calculations and projections. You've always
Sure.
come in with a substantial profit every year, and that comes from careful inventorying and well-thought-out projections.
That's always the goal, that's for sure. Yep.
We thank you very much. This is a signature event in the city, and you have headed it up now for how many years?
I think it's 15.
15 years.
Yeah.
Quite an extraordinary contribution. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Prince, would you please call the roll on M3213?
Stedman?
Yes.
Turbrack?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Blanchard?
Yes.
Kadeco?
Yes.
Clyde Onson?
Yes.
O'Dwyer?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Prince, please read item number 4 on tonight's agenda.
Motion number M3313, matter of authorizing the mayor to approve a sponsorship contract between Vibe Credit Union and the city of Berkeley during the contract period of July 1st, 2013 to June 30th, 2014.
Is there a motion to approve M3313?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve
Support.
by Councilmember Stedman with support by Mayor Pro Tem Terbrack. Mr. Sessa.
You know, Council, we are very fortunate to have sponsors such as Vibe for our Parks and Recreation Department. And this year is no exception, and they're also, again, wishing to continue this tradition of becoming one of our sponsors. I did ask our city attorney to review this agreement as well. He has reviewed it and is also recommending council to consider. I know our Parks and Recreation Director is here, Mr. Tom Caldwell. Mr. Caldwell, if you don't mind, sir, please, could you just simply inform the public, just primarily, what in turn will the credit union receive in terms of assistance or promotion of their company for this great good donation?
Good evening, everyone. The contract with Vibe this year is pretty similar to years past. They are going to have their logos affixed to a few of our T-shirts. A summer camp T-shirt, it's on the sleeve. They're a sponsor for both Winterfest and Summerfest activities, so their logo will be on those T-shirts as well. Part of the deal is a half-page ad in the Berkeley Buzz, and so, ultimately, Vibe, especially with the changes that they've had over the last year, they just want to get their name out. They're involved in a lot of city functions, and their relationship with Parks and Recreation continues to be a strong one. So we certainly recommend approval of this contract.
Thank you, Tom. Any further discussion on this? Questions? Thoughts? They certainly have been great contributors over the years.
Incredible.
And now they have a new logo, and of course, they want to promote that, and we're thankful for their support of all our events in the city.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Ms. Prince, would you please call the roll on M3313?
Turbrack?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Blanchard?
Yes.
Kadeco?
Yes.
Clyde Onson?
Yes.
Stedman?
Yes.
O'Dwyer?
Yes. Now, Ms. Prince, would you please read item number 5?
Motion number M3413, matter of authorizing the purchase of a Ricoh MPC 2551 copier from a applied imaging for $5,394.80.
Is there a motion to approve M3413?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Councilmember Baker.
Support.
Support by Councilmember Kadekel. Mr. Sessa.
Council, I don't know if you remember, but during our budget work sessions, this is one of the items that was requested by the Parks and Recreation Department to replace, and it is definitely on our capital replacement list. However, unfortunately, we could not wait till July 1st of this coming year in which to replace it. When I met with the Parks and Recreation Director, he explained that the machine that they were using was continuing to have problems, was not printing as efficiently as it hoped, and therefore instead asked that he seek some bids and quotes to make this repair as soon as possible. I did ask him to proceed, and here we are this evening, Your Honor, to get recommendation from the City Council. Now, please know, Council, because this item was an urgent need, it has already been delivered, and we have used it. However, again, the timing just didn't work in order to bring it in time before the City Council. This is an important document that the Parks and Recreation uses in order for them to do their day-to-day work and also to help them promote the Parks and Recreation Department. Our director, Mr. Caldwell, is here. Mr. Caldwell, I don't know if you'd like to add anything else, but please do so.
Yeah, the old machine was about 7 years old. Very inefficient, a lot of malfunctioning happening where we couldn't just do the day-to-day tasks that we need. Summer camp, day one was actually today. Beautiful day. And so really in order to, promote that program that was starting, it's something that was necessary. Interesting, so you have the purchase price, then there's a maintenance agreement, and with the maintenance agreement, you pay a certain cost per copy, and the per copy cost goes to cover all the toner, any repair that's necessary, the warranty information. So if we ever have any need, the company will just come out and fix it, and that's a part of the per copy price. The new machine versus the old machine, the savings that we'll realize in the lower per-click price is about $940 per year. So we figure that in the life of this new copier, it will pay for itself.
Very good. Any further questions, discussion? Mr. Sessa.
One more thing. If the City Council does approve this, you may recall that is also a budget budget amendment will be required as well, and we'll address it at that time if this is approved.
Correct.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Sessa, please call the roll on M3413.
Baker?
Yes.
Blanchard?
Yes.
Kadekel?
Yes.
Klein Onson?
Yes.
Stedman?
Yes.
Turbrack?
Yes.
O'Dwyer?
Yes. Now, Ms. Prince, will you please read item number 6?
Resolution number R2013, matter of approving an amendment to the 2012-2013 operating budget.
Is there a motion to approve R2013?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Councilmember Blanchard.
Support.
Support by Councilmember Baker. Mr. Sessa.
As I explained earlier, Your Honor, whenever we make some changes to our budget, things of that nature, a budget adjustment or budget amendment is required. And this is required in accordance with Public Act 2 of 1968 as amended, and that is important to note. You will also know we also had to make another adjustment, and we did provide that information to the City Council. And I'd ask the City Council to please incorporate the next amendment that we're recommending as well. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to our Finance Director to elaborate a little further on the recommended adjustments. Mr. Sabuda?
Thank you, Mrs. DeSessa. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Nice to be here this evening. Good to see you all. You have 2 items on the agenda. On the item, I should say. Item A is for the photocopier that you just discussed. Item B is the purchase of some equipment for the district court. It's worthy to note that we are not increasing or decreasing any appropriation. We are adjusting current appropriation, and we are shifting that appropriation from one line item to the next to meet our obligations, both for the photocopying equipment, and then, of course, in the district court, we're buying a desk and a replacement desk and a new file cabinet in the district court for $1,900. And I'd be, at this point in time, happy to entertain any questions that you may have.
Any questions on either of these items? Seem to be straightforward and clear. Ms. Prince, please call the roll on R 2013.
Blanchard.
Yes.
Deckel.
Yes.
Clay-Donson.
Yes.
Stedman.
Yes.
Turbrack.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. Now, Ms. Prince, would you please read item number 7 on tonight's agenda?
Resolution number R 1813, matter of approving a resolution of the Council of the City of Berkley, Michigan, approving an agreement with Oakland County to provide Equalization Division Assistant Services to the City of Berkley from July 1st, 2013 through June 30th, 2016.
Is there a motion to approve R 1813?
Move to approve R 1813.
It has been moved by Councilmember Cadecle.
Support.
Support by Councilmember Stedman. Mr. Sessa.
Council, I promise not to go into great detail. I know this is a very long and lengthy contract that's before you, but please know that our city attorney has reviewed it, and he is recommending it for the city council to consider. Now, before I turn this over to our finance director to just elaborate a little bit more in terms of what this contract is going to do, in some cities, they may have their own assessment individual that comes in and reviews the personal properties of our community. But for the city of Berkley, since I can remember, we've always contracted with Oakland County, and they have done a very, very good job at performing their duties. And with that, I'd like our finance director to please elaborate exactly what those services are and also identify the costs for this contract. Mr. Sabuda?
Thank you, Mrs. DeSessa. Again, good evening, Mayor O'Dwyer and council members. As stated earlier, this is a 3-year agreement. The Oakland County Equalization Division does a wonderful job for us. Not only do they do real property assessing, but they also do personal property assessing. They handle all our Michigan Tax Tribunal work when people appeal at the state level. The county goes out and they do our bidding. They're our agent at the table. They assist us with producing the tax bills and getting them out. And of course, they are there for any and all questions when we're dealing with assessing matters. This contract is a 3-year deal. We are looking at a $13.60 real property rate per parcel and $12.40 for each personal property parcel. And that runs us about $105,000 in assessing cost. That would include photocopying, supplies, mailing, and all that other incidental expenditures that go along with producing a tax bill. So we'll spend about $105,000 to $107,000 annually in this area. One of the new features of this contract is the county has asked for a renegotiation clause if the August of 2012 ballot proposal regarding personal property taxes passes. And this proposed ballot proposal is very, very, very complicated. They are still drafting rules, regulations, requirements on this personal property situation. Right now, we're estimating that our loss under the current rules as they are written, which have changed a number of times, will be about $60,000 to the city and then another $7,000 to the Downtown Development Authority. There are options to be reimbursed, and we could see approximately $53,000 to $54,000 in reimbursement annually. But make no mistake, July 1st of 2014, there is no reimbursement. We will lose $67,000 in operating revenue, no questions. Now, that's a little bit smaller than what the number that you've been hearing about in the past. We did the analysis work parcel by parcel. Our total personal property revenue is about $220,000 with an additional $35,000 going to the Downtown Development Authority. So you're looking at $255,000, $260,000 in personal property. The rules say that we get everything above $40,000 in value, and everything below 40,000 in value in personal property would go away. Okay? So that's why you see a significant reduction. In the past, we were looking at the entire package on personal property. So you're looking at 60,000. And the key will be the ballot initiative. If the ballot initiative passes, we will lose that personal property and then try to seek reimbursement. If it fails, we continue as business as usual. Okay, and I think that's very important. One of the big pieces of this ballot initiative is that our money will not go to if it passes, the sales tax that would be used to replace personal property tax would not come to us 100%, as you can see from the numbers I talked about, and also the dollars that would come from sales and use that would help reimburse the municipalities wouldn't go to the state legislature. It would go to an authority, a 5-member authority appointed by the governor. So we really would have no appropriation recourse, and you're dealing with this 5-member board. And that's some of the issues that we fleshed out, and there are other issues in regards to special assessments and special assessment areas that are still being reviewed by the legal people in Lansing and our own attorneys, Miller Canfield. So there's still a lot up in the air, and again, I think the big takeaway from this is the county will ask to negotiate if the ballot proposal passes, and we are looking at a $67,000 hit between the city and the DDA come July 1 of 2014. Be happy to answer any question you may have on this item.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
For a very clear explanation.
Thank you.
Of that variable.
Thank you.
And the county is protecting their option
Yes.
on that, and I suppose you can't blame them for that.
Sure.
And I have yet to understand why the state is having an authority administer these dollars, but that's a pay grade above mine. Are there any further questions, discussions on this topic? Seeing none, then, Ms. Prince, would you please call the roll on R 1813?
Hideko?
Yes.
Clyde Onson?
Yes.
Stedman?
Yes.
Turbrack?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Blanchard?
Yes.
O'Dwyer?
Yes. Now, Ms. Prince, would you please read item number 8 on tonight's agenda?
Resolution number R 1913, matter of approving a resolution of the council in the city of Berkley, Michigan, approving an amendment to the 2010 to 2013 collective bargaining and future bargaining agreements with the Berkley Public Safety Command Officers Association and the Berkley Public Safety Officers Association by adding standardized language necessary to maintain the qualified status of the Berkley Public Safety Pension System under the provisions of the United States Internal Revenue Service Code.
Is there a motion to approve R 1913?
Motion to approve R 1913.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Blanchard with support by Mayor Pro Tem Turbrack. Mr. Sessa.
Council, I think that the city clerk gave an excellent description of what is before you. If I had to add anything else, I suppose I would like to state that if the city council decides not to approve this agreement, then the public safety pension system could risk losing their favorable tax determination status. And in accordance with Section 401A of the IRS Code, sometime in June of this year, we could acquire some type of monetary fines to our pension system. Again, we are recommending this for your consideration, Your Honor. I don't know if the Finance Director would like to add anything else. Mr. Sabuda?
Thank you, Mrs. DeSessa. Yes, I would.
Yes, please.
This is the third letter that you've seen in this area. We dealt with two other issues. One was with compensation, the other was with retro benefits. Here, what you're dealing with is with life insurance, is the big issue here. So what it comes down to is, and we already provide a life insurance benefit, so this is just coming into compliance with Internal Revenue Service requests and the law, and we're going to attach this on the back of the contract. So what it comes down to is that if we have someone in the military or who goes into the military and meets certain criteria while he or she is in service and expires while during service, the benefit would still be paid. The life insurance benefit would still be paid to that employee. And that's where the big issue is on this item. And we would also attach it as a appendix to the contract. And please note that the Command Officers Union and the Patrol Officers Union have signed off on the item. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any question for Mr. Sabuda? Councilmember Blanchard.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Smith, is this something that is just for our pension systems, or is this something that the IRS is doing across the country to everybody? Because we're seeing a lot of these changes, and I'm wondering, are we way out in left field, or?
Oh, good question. No, everybody has to come in compliance with the Internal Revenue Service rules from across the nation. Everyone has to do it. So we're not being singled out here.
Okay, just want to make sure that we're not off base here a little bit here. Good, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Prince, please call the roll on R1913.
Platt Onson?
Yes.
Stedman?
Yes.
Turbrain?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Blanchard?
Yes.
Kadeco?
Yes.
O'Dwyer?
Yes. And now, Ms. Prince, would you read item number 9 on tonight's agenda?
Work session, manner of discussing the wayfinding plan.
Is there a motion to go into a work session?
Motion to go into work session.
Motion to do that by Councilmember Baker with support by Councilmember Platt Onson. Mr. Sessa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And for this item, I've asked Mr. Josh Bosch, I hope I pronounced that correctly. I'm so bad at names, so forgive me. He is going to give us a presentation on the wayfinding study that LSL completed for the city of Berkeley. Now, for this work session, Your Honor, what I'm asking the city council to do is to provide us with, or hopefully this will give you some better understanding of what this wayfinding study is recommending, and then more or less hear if this is something that you would like for me to further continue. Now, I am recommending this plan for your consideration. The Downtown Development Authority has also received and reviewed this plan, and they have approved it and would like for us to implement it. But before I do that, obviously I need to get some sort of approval from the City Council, or at least a nod that, yes, this is where we want you to go, Mr. Sessa. And then it'll be up to me and staff to come back to the City Council and identify how this project is going to be implemented and how much funds will be needed in order for us to do this. Can you turn off the lights, please, Dave? Thank you. Now, before he begins, and I hope I don't steal his thunder, but a lot of people always ask me, what is a wayfinding study? So I'm just going to give the very, very simple definition, and actually it's exactly what it says. It's a way to find your way around something, so hence the word wayfinding. In Berkeley, I'm sure when you walk through our downtown area, and even in other areas in our city, you'll note that we have a ton of signs, and they're all over the place, and sometimes it may get a little confusing as to what the sign is saying to you. And then sometimes I also get questions from visitors to our city that want to know where public parking is available, where the schools are, where City Hall is, where the library is, things of that nature. So this wayfinding study will incorporate a plan not just to replace some of our signs within our city, directional signs in the downtown area, but we're also looking at replacing signs in other areas around our city. Now, this plan recommends some potential signage designs, and I know a few of you have attended some of the meetings, and you have your own personal preferences, and the time will come when we will make that decision. Obviously, colors, things of that nature, is another thing that we will ask the City Council to make that final decision, and I will not, especially when it comes to color. And so with that, one more thing. When we put this study together, it was done by not just members of the Downtown Development Authority, but it also included our Public Works Director, our Public Safety Director, and also our City Planner as part of this committee. And then also, just to encourage some more knowledge and perhaps a little bit of experience as to where they may wish to have careers in the future, we also included high school students. I believe some of them were juniors and or seniors, and this gave them an opportunity to learn what a wayfinding study is all about, and also allow us or provide us with some insight as to how they view their city and the types of signage that they would like to see in our community. Now, please know that the wayfinding study, the signs and things of that nature, we will replace directional signs and maybe perhaps eliminate some of the signage that's out there, but we will not remove the traffic signs and things of that nature that are mandated by law in order so that we can enforce our laws. But we will work with public safety in some areas where we think perhaps there's too many no parking signs and maybe just 2 or 3 may do. But again, we'll work with public safety and we'll work with Public Works in the removal of these signs. So with that, Josh, I'll turn it over to you, and you can give us an overview to the City Council. Thank you.
First, thanks for having me here. I just want to thank Mayor O'Dwyer and Council. This was a very fun project to work on, and I think we got some good feedback from the community and the steering committee, and hopefully you guys agree, as well as the DDA board did, that it came out quite well. I'm not quite sure if I can, is it possible to move this stand forward so I can reach the computer to
you know, you
change
can move
slides?
you can take the mic and you can get closer. How about that? You can just click the mic off.
Perfect.
There you go.
Okay. I guess in some ways you did steal the thunder a little bit about
I'm
what is
sorry, I knew
wayfinding.
that's what I
So,
was gonna say. Darn.
you know, as a review, you know, you need to understand that signs should be not confusing as possible. Remove any excess information and understand who the users are, being locals, people who pass through maybe every day for work, and as well as the random people who might come to town for such things as the Woodward Dream Cruise, things like that. The goal of this plan, identify, you know, the key destinations in Berkeley. Where do you want to direct your traffic to? Design a sign that would please everybody. Schedule as well as location analysis where existing signage is, and then priorities for installation based on, you know, which one would be most important. So some examples, I'm sure you've seen these signs around town before. The pedestrian one, I guess it just changed on you there, but currently Berkeley does not have, there it is again, does not have a pedestrian wayfinding sign, but that's an example of what one would look like in, you know, welcome and gateway signs, and then the typical wayfinding, which is the one in the middle. One of the biggest things that we wanted to accomplish here is cohesiveness, a uniform look, uniform feel, everything to look the same, so you know when you're in Berkeley and when you're not in Berkeley. If you look at the bottom of the screen, those are 3 completely different welcome signs to Berkeley right now. That's kind of the opposite of what you would want in a wayfinding system. A review of what we did throughout the course of the study. We developed the draft plan through the steering committee meetings, and we also had a public open house. With the steering committee, we did a driving tour. I know Councilmember Baker was involved. We did a driving tour, looked at existing signage, where signage should probably be located. We got out a few times and walked around as well. We had student involvement, got their input, you know, where are they walking to from the school? Where would they need, you know, wayfinding for the pedestrian that was recommended in this plan? As well as research, much like City Manager DeSessa mentioned, can you eliminate some of the existing parking sign, no parking signs and things of that nature? The plan includes several maps. This was what we identified as the key nodes. It's kind of hard to read up there. I think we can get you a copy of the full plan if you haven't already. Essentially, the primary roadways would be the primary, where they intersect would then be a primary node where the majority of people, need to make a decision. Do I go straight here? Do I turn right? Do I turn left? Depending on what their destination is. Secondary roadways would have typically smaller uses, parks maybe, that would also include signage, would most likely be used for, locals and semi-locals, those who drive maybe through the area for work every day. Tertiary roadways, typically in wayfinding, those would be roadways that you may send somebody down to a destination, but the roadway itself would likely not have any signage on it. These, again, we talked about the destinations. These were the destinations identified in the plan that you wanted to sign drivers or pedestrians to. Things like the schools, the community center, the ice arena, city parks, the public safety, city hall. This is where we recommended parking signage. Most of 12 Mile has some parking signage. What we're trying to identify is public parking spaces. I know there's some problems, especially on 12 Mile, where it's confusion between what's public parking and what's not public parking. So these are locations that we identified to be key for parking signage. This is what the gateway signs were we identified as the key for welcome signage and gateway signage. As you can see, some different colors there, which you already have in some spots, but identifying the downtown area separate from the city limits is key, as well as, we talked about the primary and secondary roadways might have different size signage, depending on, again, what the council and the staff would want to move forward with. And this is the wayfinding signage. Again, the different colors primarily have to do with the different phases. We identified which ones were the most important, and therefore those should be the ones implemented first, in our opinion. And therefore they're phased out. The pedestrian signs are also identified up there. So part of the plan was to design what the signage would look like. These were the 4 preliminary options that we came up with. We hosted an open house right here next door. We had the public attend. We had our steering committee attend. Councilmember Baker, I think maybe some other, yeah. Essentially, these were the signs that they looked at. We took comments from the public based on these 4 options, and the designer that we worked with as part of our team for this, we wanted the initial ones to have many different color schemes just to see what people liked, different styles, different even, some of them have multiple parking signage options for you to choose from, whereas others just have 1 or 2. So just kind of a wide array of things to look at to see what piques your interest. And then we took the comments, which here's a list of some of the comments. It was identified at that time that, many people wanted the established in 1932 listed on the welcome signs. They wanted a vibrant blue color to be the primary color. The feather banner along the side where it says Berkley and some of those options, if you can look at the PowerPoint in front of you, that was well liked by the public. The catalpa leaf was discussed as being an option on the sign, maybe a little more controversial than some of the others. Some people thought maybe it was just a downtown thing. Others liked it for the entire city. And then having the arrows all on the same side. I'll go back one slide. If you look at some of the options, whether you turned right or left, some of the arrows were on the opposite sides of the sign. To avoid confusion, it was suggested that we keep them all on the right side of the sign. So ultimately, this was, based on those comments and what we heard, this was the final design that we came up with. We presented to the DDA. Their board approved and liked these signs as well. One thing to note, for cost purposes, we wanted the signs to be designed in a way that if one portion needed to be changed, you could change just that portion as opposed to removing the entire sign. The example here, this is actually from Ann Arbor, where, as you can see from the backside, each individual slot can be removed so that, again, you can remove just one piece and change it out if a destination changes without having to remove the entire sign. And I'll go back to the designs here. You can kind of see here how it's laid out, that each of those slots can be moved. And in this case, for the manufacturing purposes, they're actually designed so that the arrows are all one individual unit. You just turn it the appropriate direction before you place it on the actual sign. This might be hard to read, but this was a cost estimate given to us by Fairmont Sign Company, which is actually the company that produced the signs that you saw from Ann Arbor. These were their cost estimates for the different phases that we showed in the previous map. This cost estimate includes the signage as well as putting the signs up for you. It does not include the cost for removing existing signage. Chris, who is a Berkley resident, was very helpful in this process. He works for the Fairmont Sign Company. So again, I would like to thank them for their help in this process as well. Any questions?
Thank you, Josh. Are there questions, discussion on this very important issue? Wayfinding is very important, and we take it probably a little more seriously in this country than in other parts of the world. And when you're in other cities, you discover that wayfinding is not so well charted out, and finding your way around places is often difficult, even airports elsewhere in the world. So I like the idea that we are making movement through the city for our own residents, but for visitors coming through, making it more friendly and providing guidance and direction and encouragement for people to go to places that they might not seek out if it weren't right in front of them. So any discussion? Councilmember Baker.
Sure. Thank you, Your Honor. And thank you for this presentation here this evening and for your work leading up to our ability to have this dialogue tonight. I appreciate that very much. As you mentioned in the public hearing, it was myself, Councilmember Platt Onson, and some others were there, and we appreciated the opportunity to listen to the voices of the community and of folks such as yourself that have been through this process before to help share your expertise with us as well, so that we can help move this forward in a wise and thoughtful way. Without continuing to define what wayfinding is, I do think it's really important as we think about this opportunity. This actually defines the character of our community. This is a strong step to signal and message not only where something is, but how we think about it and the ways in which we visualize that. So there's a little attention to details, the choice of color and the choice of where the arrows are and things like that. They seem trivial and they seem subtle, but to those with design experience, it really reflects the essence of what it's all about. You know, like a real good design is something that just feels, it just flows, it's natural, of course. You know, those kinds of things are the byproduct of well thought out work. So the kinds of things that we're talking about here, the details that you're presenting us with, the feedback from the community, I think are really important aspects of this. I want to, again, celebrate that opportunity to move forward with this. In terms of some of the specifics, I know as we get into the details, and that's more for subsequent work here, we'll certainly want to think carefully about the specifics of the signs, you know, because like our downtown district actually is the entirety of 11 Mile and the 12 Mile going all the way across, so we'd certainly want to be careful how and in what ways we signal which portions of downtown we're entering. I know we'd highlighted a few of the areas here in the charts here, so we'd want to make sure we're consistent with the entirety of our map here. And I'm also curious for thoughts about the phasing. So there's a couple of different ideas in terms of, you know, kind of working our way from the outside in, or as the chart indicated, some of the higher traffic areas first, or where there's more likelihood for travelers, for visitors who might benefit from such a system. And then the pros and cons of what if we were to arrange it so that we could do it all at once, you know, some kind of a mass rollout over a weekend or something like that. So those are some of the things that I'm thinking about. Again, I don't know if it's financially or physically possible to have one wave rather than several phases, but I'm curious for additional dialogue around that as well. And again, to say this is a key part of our city's master plan, so to help bring that connection to bear too, that this is something that the city and through the Planning Commission's wisdom here is put on our docket, and I'm willfully grateful that we have the chance to pick it up and move forward. So that's what I had for the moment.
Thank you. Councilmember Platt Onson.
I'm saving up my words all meeting for this moment. Just kidding. I was at the session, and I'm sure it provided some colorful commentary, but there are a couple of points in the plan that I thought were interesting. So, and thanks for the setup to the idea of brand and communicating who the city is, because a lot of the discussion in the session was very much centered around what do the colors and the font and the styling say about Berkeley as a community. And that's something that we're going to want to be really careful about moving forward. Who are we trying to attract? What message does a color scheme send? And looking at those details quite closely. There is a piece on here, though, that I thought was, sorry, it's not on here, and that was the point, actually, that is something that's been coming up over the course of the last few years, and it's something that we've been talking about and working on, something that I know the Planning Commission has been as well in the work that they've been doing around a non-motorized transportation plan. And one of the key things that we talk about often is wayfinding for bicycles. So our cyclists take different routes, especially as we have conversations around keeping them off Coolidge, where many of the directional signs might be. We need to think about where their decision nodes are as they're moving through the city. For instance, if I'm a cyclist and I'm trying to get to downtown, especially coming from across from Royal Oak or up from Huntington Woods, odds are good that I've taken Mortensen North. And when I hit the intersection at Mortensen and Wiltshire, I need to know that if I want to go to the library or the main part of downtown, I actually need to turn left at that point. The nice thing for cyclists there is Wiltshire has a light, so it's easy for them to cross. So I think those are some of the key pieces when we're talking about complete streets and non-motorized transportation. And I know that it's something that came up in the Planning Commission meetings as well. Not only having bicycle route signs, but having bicycle route signs with those the same type of destination markers so that we're able to accommodate them as well. So
Thank
that's
you.
all, that's all for now.
That was also a thought I had as you were making the presentation, that we probably will need to expand that to accommodate bike paths, and then carry the same theme, same sign design for bike paths as well.
Okay.
Something along those lines. Mr. Sessa.
Council, I guess the only thing I wanted to say is to answer some of the questions that Councilman Baker had brought up. I believe the estimated projected cost for all of this is a little over $200,000 to get this done. What I'd like to do is to sit down with staff to see, obviously, what makes sense for us. I think that it's a very doable project. I too would like to see it completed within one full swoop instead of having to wait. But I need to work again with staff to see where the dollars are. And if by some chance that's not doable, then Josh has already come up with a plan as to how we can just simply phase it in. So I think that's good. But I will come back to City Council very, very soon and make some recommendations. You know, our fiscal year is just starting, and already we're changing our budget. So I'm going to be looking for some assistance, and then to address some of the concerns that people have with regards not just to the signs, but also the type of signs that we're going to have. That decision is probably going to be harder than all of this once we decide which sign and which colors, because that we can't change. Once we choose the color, once we choose the design, I think we're set. So that's going to be, and that's going to be a tough issue. That's why I kiddingly made that remark that the City Council will make that decision, because it's definitely a difficult one. So let me just get one thing clear. I agree we will include and make sure that we have bike signs as well. I agree with that. We'll make sure that we incorporate that. But one thing that I guess in listening to both council members, do we need to perhaps look at conducting dare I say it, a branding study first before we do this, so that we can look at, or give us a better idea in terms of the colors that we're going to be used, the style of the letterings on the sign. All these things are very critical, and I know people think, oh my God, Jane, this shouldn't be that difficult, but it's, as Councilman Baker mentioned, it's a reflection of your community, so you want to make sure that whatever you choose, it's going to give a positive message, an inviting message. The other thing that we discussed at the meetings was, I know that the catalpa leaf, what's placed on top of some of the signs, it was recommended that perhaps those be placed on the downtown area, so that you know you're in the downtown. But we also talked about perhaps maybe using the city's logo. But if you take a look at our current logo, I don't think no one will be able to tell from far away just exactly, what it is or what it says, unless you get up real close. At some of our meetings, some of the participants expressed interest and recommended that perhaps the city council may want to take a look at our logo and perhaps update it. I did bring this suggestion to the city council 10 years ago, and it was quickly shot down. And I understand, tradition and a lot went into designing the current logo. But so, long story short, are you looking for me to examine the possibility of doing a branding study first before we move forward on this plan? Yes.
Councilmember Pat Onson.
I was actually just going to do some clarification, perhaps for council and viewers at home. This is my background, and so I was just going to give a little bit in terms of what a branding study might include. So typically when we think about the brand for something, we think of sort of two main parts. One is the visual identity system, color, font, and some of the logo, the styling around that. The other piece is tone and messaging and key phrasing, and thinking about what we say and how we say it, and what that says about us. Some cities have chosen to take the tone of super fun, crazy, casual. Some cities have taken the tone of being much more serious and more of a country atmosphere. So we would really be looking at sort of who we are and how we want to convey that through both words and imagery. So you're looking at both identity, and then brand is the bigger picture. So pricing on something like that would probably be dependent on overall scope of that. Obviously, my background is in this. I see a lot of value in that, especially if you're going to spend $230,000 on something. Perhaps you should make sure it's pointed in the right direction. That's my wayfinding joke for the night. So we might want to consider something like that before moving forward on a major purchase. And I think in terms of overall budget, we probably want to look at an overall strategy for how to attack some of the projects that have been coming up before us. So we're looking at Coolidge Streetscape, wayfinding. We have a parking lot project going on, which of course isn't on this because this was begun before the parking lot was even part of the budget. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of things that we might want to prioritize in terms of, as money comes up, what order do we want to do things in to make sure that we're supporting the community in the best way possible. So that's all.
Mayor Pro Tem Turbrack.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Councilmember Platt Onson just mentioned, we have a lot of different things going on right now that we're looking at, and wayfinding, seems to be an integral part of all of that, the Coolidge streetscape. It's going to completely change, the entire face and culture almost of the city when you come in and you see the signs and then they all match and we don't have different welcome points all over the place. So, on the one hand, yes, certainly the wayfinding is $234,000 on before, the signs for the bike route. If we do the branding study, we're looking at certainly an increased cost. My biggest concern is having too many different projects going on and not having money to do all of them. And that's why, what you just said is critical. I think we need to really have we have all these little individual plans, we need to put them together, and things need to be certainly prioritized because, Coolidge is going to be a huge part of this. We talked at the last work session on Coolidge about really changing the feel of that road and what it feels like when you're traveling on it right now and what we want it to feel like to residents, after the major changes. And I think the signage is going to have a significant impact on that. But if we, start running up our costs too much, it's not like we have money falling out of our pockets. I don't want us to get into a situation where we start some of these projects, don't have the funding to maybe finish them or do the next project, and we kind of get stuck. I'm certainly in favor of all of them, but from a fiscal perspective, I want to make sure that we have, a bigger plan. We've got, how many different master plans involved, in wayfinding, that we need to make sure that everything is set out, and there's a clear strategy of, yes, we want to accomplish this. Here's what we need to do financially to set the money aside so that we can do each of these things, and here's how they're going to work together. We don't want to have Coolidge, if something changed on Coolidge, the streetscape changes, then we have to go back and change these signs after we've already implemented the signs, everywhere else or changing them. I just don't want us to get into that kind of situation. A lot of things going on, a lot of great things going on right now, but I think we really need to sit down and discuss and strategize how they all fit together, both, in the best interest of the residents, but also, the best interest of the city from a fiscal perspective as well. Thank you.
Very good. Councilmember Baker.
Thank you again, Your Honor. I think those are real wise words. I think the having that vision and that coordinated plan, that roadmap, if you will, is my joke of the night.
Get that one.
Yeah, it's not worth getting, I think. But but what is worth getting is having a roadmap that does identify how these pieces work together. I think a lot of these elements are very important. This understanding the branding, the tone, the character of the community is important. The conversation around the logo, I think, should be put in that sequence as well. At the same time, we don't have to have everything completely tied out before we can make progress on some of the key initiatives contained therein. So, for instance, if we do some of the preliminary work, like establish the roadmap with the timing and the broad cost estimates, then we can understand what our fiscal appetite is to move forward in the short term, and begin to make some of those decisions that will pave the way towards the vision that we seek to accomplish. No. So before I completely lose my train of thought, I will get back on track with this here and say that some of the design constraints that we can put into the things like the wayfinding can be done in a way that will accommodate change. And I'd like to remind us of one of the points that you made in terms of the component-based design for some of the streetscape signs. So, for instance, the notion of the logo, right? If we were to have it as an ornament on the top or integrated in a way that piece would be removable and replaced with whatever the next design is. On the one hand, sure, there's some cost to take out the old one and put in the new one and things like that, but it does give us that flexibility to take some meaningful steps forward in the short term, whatever that means, as we make those broader decisions about like the logo and things like that. So all I'm trying to say there is that I think these are all important parts of thinking about the future of the city. These are 20, 30-year decisions that we're talking about here. And as we, or 50 years or more if you look at the logo. Yeah. And it's served us well. But as we look to the future, I think that these kinds of things can be done in a way that we can design enough to get started rather than have to design enough to get finished. Trusting ourselves with that roadmap to say, as we make these decisions, it charts some of our course and gives us additional flexibility for other areas. So, thanks.
Councilmember Blanchard.
Thank you, Your Honor. Getting back to some of the smaller details here, on the destination map that you sent us, there's two things in here I'd like to talk about. One is the most
the times I've been asked for directions in this city are how to get to the athletic field.
Yeah.
I get asked that a lot. I see it's not on the destination list. And I think that's important, because everybody that's looking for an athletic contest goes to the high school, because in most places, that's where your athletic field is, but not here. So we have to send them down the street, and I think that has to be called out and be very specific. The other thing is, one of my city council jobs is liaison to the Chamber of Commerce. And as we look at your destination map on 12 Mile at Robina, we see a little bump out to the south side, but there's some businesses on the north side, and if you've ever walked down there and let them know you're a city council member, you'll get your ear bent for half an hour. And we have excluded them from our little thing here, and I hope they don't see this until we get it corrected, because there's some very vocal businesses on that little end of Robina right there by the theater, across the theater. So I think that needs to be added. I'm sure that we'll take that into consideration when we do the wayfinding study, but if they see this little map and they're left off, they might feel very offended about that. So, thank you.
Very good, thank you. Anybody else?
Your Honor.
Mr. Sessa?
Well, what I can do is again, work with staff to take a look at all these various projects that we're working on right now. The only project that the city council did approve in this coming year's budget is the construction of the parking lot for Coolidge. So I suppose if we were going to put any signs there, which we obviously need to, we need to do that real soon, because that will be done this fiscal year, and that could mean, I don't think it'll be done this year, because the construction period we have in our state is pretty short, so we probably will be done early next year, I'm assuming. But we'll be designing the plans this year, and then get it out for next year. So, council, again, I think that I will look into some costs for conducting a branding study of some sort for the city, and then indicate how we're going to follow up with the implementation of the other projects that we're doing. Because I'm really not too worried too much about some of the street projects and things of that nature, because those are primarily repairs to our roads and things of that nature. We're not going to be doing signage, except maybe if needed. But I know it's difficult to make sign decisions. But I'd strongly encourage the city council to consider this branding study, and I'll take a look at it and we'll come back.
Well,
But we need to do it soon, Your Honor, because time.
It seems like there's general support to proceed in that direction.
Okay, very good. Just wanted to make sure. Okay.
My read of the council is that that's what we want to do.
Okay, very good.
And we want to describe the vision we have, as Councilmember Baker says, for the next 20, 40, 50 years out. Even though it's an evolving process that can be tweaked and changed as it goes, but we have to be thinking down in that distance, giving expression to how we understand this city and how we want other people to feel about it when they come here and are part of this community. And it will have an additional effect of attracting people to want to live in a community that has articulated a style of life that they feel that they want to have. So there are multiple implications of that kind of branding study, and it's not an easy thing to do. There are decisions that would have to be made, and like everything else, not everybody's going to get their way, because with all the wayfinding in the world, you don't get your way. Mr. Kadekla.
So bad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hope I don't follow in everyone's footsteps there. No, I think that, if you look around Berkeley, there's a lot of new people here. There's a lot of new residents here that, 20, 30 years ago, everybody knew where everything was. Everybody knew where the athletic field was, where the public safety department, where the historical museum was. Now, they don't know, especially these people that are moved in. I've even talked with administration, with Ms. Pius DeSessa, about even even having something to welcome the new residents of Berkeley, so they know where everything is, you know. But I like the idea of, when we're putting this down on paper, prioritizing. I think prioritizing, something that Councilmember Blanchard mentioned was Robina, and that was going through my mind the whole time, because I've been one of those council members that walked down Robina. And, you know, nobody knows that we're here. How are people going to know? How are we going to have signs? You know, how are people? So things like that, I think, would be really good. I think the key thing is get it down on paper. Then we could look at it on paper, prioritize which way we want to go before we implement any action. And that way, we'll have a way to find. I had to join you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pat Honson.
So last meeting, I believe it was last meeting, I brought up that we seem to be seeing quite a bit in terms of parking challenges, and maybe we should have a work session to talk about municipal parking and strategies around that. It seems like we have tied into that, obviously signage for parking. Tied into that, we have streetscape for Coolidge. And all of these pieces, as you mentioned, are really playing into one big vision. So perhaps this would be a good time for us to put together a larger visioning session around sort of bringing in all of those pieces. I'm not certain that, you know, half an hour at the end of a regular council meeting will give us the time we need. And I would propose bringing in a group that's a little more close to some of this in their day-to-day activities. Perhaps this would be a good session to have jointly with the Planning Commission to help us. Sorry, I just volunteered you, Mr. Chairman. But to really, these are issues that they've been talking about as well, and municipal parking and parking as a whole keeps coming before them and will be again in another week or so. So perhaps this would be an opportunity for us to sit down as a whole and come up with a grand vision, come up with our prioritization, so as budget becomes available, or as we're planning for budget, the city manager knows which items to sort of take first and how we're hoping to move forward.
Very good. Mr. Sessa.
I'm really glad that the Councilmember Planonson mentioned including the Planning Commission, because that's what I was going to recommend as well. I would only add perhaps the Downtown Development Authority as well, because of, you know, in the downtown, how it's going to affect the parking that we're going to be constructing there and things of that nature. So, no, the city planner and I are looking at parking as we speak. She's given me already some ways that other cities are undertaking this. We need to sit down and talk about it, and then come up and meet with the city council and see where we want to go. So we're hoping to do this very, very soon. But even and I know the Planning Commission may not like this, but perhaps when we do the branding study, is also to have them come in and get some insight from them as well, and maybe even the Planning Commission. I mean, it's going to be an open meeting. I mean, the DDA. It's an open meeting. The entire public will be invited, obviously. But branding is not as easy as it sounds. It is very important, and it's something that I look forward to working on, because it's, as Councilman Baker said, it's something that's going to change the way we look, and this is something that's going to be with us, for the next 20 years plus. So I'm anxious to do that, and that this is going to be a really good change. And the funny thing about it is that, you all mentioned the Robina businesses, and I'm really surprised, because that's one of the things that we mentioned. I'll talk to Josh, but we want to make sure that those businesses in particular, people know how to get to them, because they are on the side, and a lot of residents are not aware that they're there. So, believe me, they're kind of the impetus for us doing this wayfinding study. So, thank you, Councilman. I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. Thank you.
Very good. Are there any other additional items related to this that need to be discussed, or have we exhausted the topic?
I think we're done.
So you have a general sense then
Yes, sir, I
of
do.
how to proceed?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Very good. Thank you all, and thank you, Josh, for
Thank you,
being here and
Josh.
making that presentation. Next item on the agenda is communications, and I believe Councilmember Stedman is up first.
I have nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilmember Blanchard.
I'd just like to talk a little bit about Lids for Kids, which we had a week ago Saturday. We had a lot of our public safety officers volunteer their time to put it together. We had a lot of other volunteers there. We gave out approximately 400 bicycle helmets to the kids, and the American Legion, the SAL, came up and provided hot dogs for everybody that was there, and I heard that the number was 732 hot dogs. So obviously we had a good time and everybody ate well. I missed the thing because I was down at the Art Bash all day and had the honor of taking Fire Engine 420 down there and lifting up probably 500 kids to put them up in that truck so they could see what was going on and look around. So it was a great day, and I think everybody in Berkeley got a chance to get out and see what was going on. So we had two very good events, the Art Bash and the Lids for Kids. So I'd like to thank all those people that volunteered to put all that together because it was a lot of work. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Baker.
Well, thank you again, Your Honor. Congratulations to all for both of those great events. Those were both a lot of fun and very well received, and the weather was fantastic too. So it was a great day for the city and for the vendors and for the kids and for safety too. I think that's a fantastic thing. So great. Thanks. A couple of quick things. The Downtown Development Authority Board met last week's Wednesday, June 12th. One of the main topics was again around Coolidge Highway in particular, and that motif that we talked about a moment ago in our work session on wayfinding continues to be a good conversation point for many of us around the community, and the DDA is no exception. They talked a lot about this sense of place, this sense of belonging, the sense of desire to be here and to not want to leave. So that was evident in their thought process about the Coolidge work as well, the Coolidge streetscape and some of the options we have for improving transit along that stretch. So that was great. Speaking of transit, there was a Complete Streets work sessions last week as well, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. 3 days of action-packed discussion, conversation having to do with looking at Woodward Avenue in particular. A brief bit of context, Woodward Avenue is 27 miles in its entirety, and there's a study to look at that length of road for completeness, if you will. So right now, Woodward is very good at getting cars around. Well, it's generally good, I should say. Generally good at getting cars from point A to point B, but it's not always that good at getting people from point A to point B, and that's the key distinction that Complete Streets thinking tends to bring to the forefront, is focusing on the people, which can be in cars. Cars are great. I have one. I like it. But there's other ways as well, and so we want to have a system that makes it safe and accessible to all users, regardless of age or ability. So that's the context around Complete Streets. We looked at a nice our chunk of Woodward here last week, 3 days, with community involvement prevalent throughout the entire process. There's presentations, there was studies, there was maps on the tables with this tracing paper on top that you can draw on with markers, which was really cool to kind of identify the things that you liked or where you had questions. There were walking audits, bicycle audits, where we got on the bikes and rode around and looked at some of the features of it that were more complete and other aspects that were less complete to kind of help provide input into the study. And then a preliminary report out was on Wednesday evening, where the initial findings and conversation enablers were brought to bear. So it was good news. The study continues. The report will be coming out in the fall. Our discussion was the fourth of 5 discussions. There's one more that's happening this week in Detroit, and is input into that process. So I want, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody who was able to come out and participate in the process. Berkeley was well represented along with the other communities around us here as we seek to talk about an important asset that we all share and enjoy. This notion of place, this partnerships of place continues. Later this week, the Michigan Municipal League will be having a strategic retreat to focus on that very theme, among others. It's their annual retreat where they'll do things like their budgets for the year and priorities and forecasts and things. And top of their agenda has to do with this partnership of place. We've covered it briefly before. It's not my intent to walk through all that material now, but just to remind us of the 4 themes that we're talking about. One is funding for the future. Second is Michigan in motion, the place for talent, and strength and structure. And what I'd like to do is in subsequent sessions maybe explore those a little bit more about what those mean and what it means to Berkley and our communities. But that work is going on later this week. And finally, I'd like to close with a quote from Mr. Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin once said, he says lots of stuff, and this one time in particular he said, "By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail." And again, that's by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. Now, one of the things that I think that we would certainly not want to prepare to fail on is safety. As we know, this is National Safety Awareness Month. We're beginning week 3 as we have this conversation here tonight. Week 3, there's the themes for each of the weeks that the National Safety Council puts forth. The first week was preventing slips, trips, and falls. Last week was around wellness, being healthy. This week is around emergency preparedness. And next week is around ergonomics. So if you're into the Boy Scouts, you know the 2-word motto, be prepared, right, and all that entails. That's just being mentally and physically and prepared and able to act for things that you're not aware of or that you don't know when it's going to happen. Something that I'd like to ask each of us to think about as we talk about our preparedness is talk with your family, talk with your friends, talk with your neighbors about some of the emergencies that we hope never happen, right? We don't want these things to happen, but if they do, what would you do? You know, what would you do if there was a fire? What would you do if there was a flood? What would you do if there was a tornado? What would you do if your identity was stolen, right? Identity theft. What would you do in those kinds of emergencies? And be sure to take into consideration the capabilities of those in your family too, in terms of evacuation procedures and storage of things, so that you can make a safe exit from wherever you find yourself. So let's plan for success and ensure that we continue to be safe in our communities and with our families. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Turbrack.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few things. I also would like to commend everybody who was involved in the Art Bash, the Chamber, and the public safety officers with the Lids for Kids. Every year, those are 2 events that are great. They're good times for families. Okay, it's not just individual people. You can bring your entire family. There's always so many different vendors. The Art Bash seems to get bigger as far as their offerings and the vendors and what they have, and the public safety officers, they do their best to make sure the kids have fun that day, whether it's the climbing wall, all the different bounce houses, the dunk tank, which was a little too chilly for me to volunteer for this year.
Yeah.
Something else going on. And then the Sons of the American Legion getting in with the hot dogs and everything else. Tremendous events. I started the meeting by reading a proclamation about July being Parks and Recreation Month. But we have a couple things here in June that I want to make sure everyone's aware of before our next meeting, because we won't meet until the 3rd week of July. Coming up June 19th, that's this week, a Tot Lot grand reopening from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Tot Lot. Parks and Recreation staff put in a lot of time, a lot of effort into changing that and making sure that had some better offerings for the residents. So please come and join them June 19th from 5 to 8. The next event is not Parks and Recreation sponsored specific, but still important nonetheless. We heard a lot of discussion about Robina already in that little Robina area. Robina Rhapsody is June 20th from 6:30 to 8, right in that little area that we've mentioned so many times today, the area of our downtown. So if you can stop by, bring your families, another great night for friends and family. Community garage sale coming up June 22nd and 23rd at the community center. Those events are all day as long as the community center is open. And the first event actually in July, the Senior Activity Day, 9:30 to 2 o'clock on July 10th. So that's July 10th from 9:30 to 2, Senior Activity Day. Again, just a number of things planned. It's going to be a great day. A couple of those items are actually part of our Summerfest, but since there's so many different things jumping around, Summerfest really does kick off in July, so I'll have a lot more at the next council meeting. But again, it doesn't just have to be July to get out to your parks and go out there and have some fun, take your kids out, walk around, do whatever you need to do. And in Berkley, we're blessed to be anchored by parks and by great events and organizations and activities. So please go out and have some fun. Thank you.
Councilmember Platt-Honson.
2 quick things, since my counterparts covered so much. First was that the bike valet at the Art Bash was very, very full this year, so it seems that people are becoming more and more comfortable with that being their mode of transportation and appreciating that you can park a lot closer if you ride your bike than if you have to park several blocks down after driving your car in. So that was very nice to see. The other is that my friends and I were able to get a little sneak peek into Coco Fairfields on 12 Mile. That'll be the new sort of breakfast and lunch place. He's done quite a bit of work to that location. They're going to have a great mixed menu. There's some nice bacon and sausage dishes for my husband and some vegetarian dishes for me, so we'll finally be able to eat breakfast together. And he will be opening in July, so everybody should check that out in the coming weeks. And that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Cadeckel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem, quick question.
Oh, the location is where the sushi, Hoggers, the sushi restaurant,
Right by
everything was.
PNC.
Yep.
South of 12 Mile, yes.
Yeah, it's on the south side of 12 Mile.
On that community garage sale, is that also where a lot of the people in the community have garage sale and there's a map? Usually they have, okay.
Yes.
Just so people are aware
Yeah,
that residents will be having the garage sale too,
Yeah,
correct?
I forgot what, Mr. Caldwell's not here, to make sure that you get in that, I believe, was the beginning of,
So I think it's already passed.
I think it was the beginning of this
Right, but
week
there's a
to
map
into
where
that.
people
Yeah,
can
yeah. Oh, yeah,
go
certainly, yeah.
at the community center. All right, thank you. A few things, speaking of businesses, the media's been really busy with a lot of our businesses. I was watching, I had the TV on while getting ready to leave the other day, and I saw April from Catching Fireflies and Yellow Door on Channel 2 News live, which was really great. And many of you have seen or heard about Amici's being on national TV, where it's amazing. World-renowned quotes can come from different places. And while watching that, I was really, I don't know, flabbergasted, I guess is a good word, to realize that some of these quotes can come from little Berkley Amici's. So that's great. I just came from the ice cream social, and I want to congratulate the Friends of Berkeley Library. They had a lot of people there. People were walking, riding their bikes, sitting around, eating a lot of ice cream. So that was really nice to see. The Honor Guard, many of you have heard about the Honor Guard, and if you haven't, some of our finest public safety officers, they're all fine, but some of them have stepped up and started an Honor Guard, and they're in need of funds for uniforms and where they can go and be at fallen officers or firemen's funerals, at ceremonies such as Memorial Day, and they're having a spaghetti dinner on Saturday, July 27th, from 4 to 8 p.m. at the American Legion. The cost is $10 for adults, $5 for seniors and children, and children 2 and under get in for free. It's a great cause, and tickets are available. I have some. There are some available at the Public Safety Department right across the street. And also, I want to wish everyone a happy and a safe 4th of July, since we won't be back till after that. So everyone enjoy yourself and have a safe holiday. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sessa.
Councilor, I too echo my appreciation to all the people that worked very hard to make, the festivals last week. They were tremendous. The Art Bash was packed, and I'd love to see the children that were at the Lids for Kids programs and our public safety department. They did an amazing job, and it was a lot of fun. So I did my best to stay away from the food. Not too much. But anyways, residents, for more information on many of these projects that the city council is recommending, I ask that you take a look at your website, the Berkley website, and that's at www.berkleymish.org, and you can find information about the times and the dates and the places on some of these things. So please visit our website. With that, turn it over to you, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sabuda.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have nothing this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Attorney.
Well, briefly, actually, Councilmember Cadeckel's best wishes to everybody for Independence Day. It's kind of a good segue into my continuing series of updates on the state fireworks law. And I could tell you as of this afternoon, we were this close. I've been reporting to you that there was proposed legislation that would enable municipalities like the city of Berkley to regulate not only regulate, but prohibit the nighttime use and discharge of fireworks. When I say nighttime, it'd actually be restricted between midnight and 8 a.m. on the days that the fireworks are permitted, which you may recall is the day of a national holiday and the day before and the day after. Well, since my last report, both the House and the State Senate have passed the legislation by a wide margin, and it was my understanding that about 3 o'clock today, it was submitted to Governor Snyder for signature, but I regret that I was not able to get any report before coming over here tonight to find out whether he's signed it into law or not. But it's expected to happen, and it should be imminent, and that's the good news. The bad news is that if it is signed into law and if it is given immediate effect, it may be necessary to hold a special meeting of City Council to adopt an ordinance quickly if we want to have it in place for Independence Day. But that's the cart before the horse a little bit. Let's see if the governor signs into law. I have every reason to expect that he will, but until that happens, it's premature to act. That's my report.
Very good. Thank you very much. Well, we've had a wonderful meeting tonight discussing vision and branding and looking to the future. But we had a resident come to the microphone, Mr. Kevin Hoth, to talk about a very practical matter that we cannot overlook in this enthusiasm for a grandiose plan, the very practical matter of the rodents. His concern and his comment tonight was, I thought, right on the money, that it's going to take the total community to remediate this problem. Residents should know that we have increased the funding in ordinance enforcement at the last budget. So hopefully we will see some impact with regard to that. But I just want to remind Mr. Hoth and all of the residents that this issue it does affect the quality of life for everybody, and it needs to be addressed. A couple of other things. I'd like to congratulate the Pastoral Association of Berkley for their work in helping restore the nativity set. They expended significant money in conjunction with the Detroit Parade Company to restore each of those figures. And they were unveiled at the Methodist Church, 12 and Coolidge on Sunday, and they are wonderful. And so kudos to the Pastoral Association.
That's great.
I bring you greetings from Mayor Steffen. Mayor Steffen has a new knee. And she is recuperating at home and doing very well. She assures me she'll be able to play soccer in a month or two. But she sends her greetings to everyone. This is also graduation time. Lots of graduations in our community. We'd like to congratulate all of the young men and women who are graduating and moving forward with their academic careers. Congratulate their families and all the teachers whose dedication and passion have helped them grow and develop to become the young men and women we want to have in our community. They are the future for all of us. And finally, Councilmember Baker will be at the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard when we meet next time round. So, Councilman, we wish you well on your trip. We hope it is productive and useful, and that you will take to heart the quotation that you so nicely recalled for us today. I was, as you made that quotation about making sure that we prepare to avoid failing, my students should hear that. They have a final examination coming up this week, so I'm hoping that they have heard your wise counsel. So on that note, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn by
Support.
Councilmember Cadeckel with support by Councilmember Blanchard. Ms. Prince, would you please call the roll?
Stedman?
Yes.
Herbrick?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Blanchard?
Yes.
Cadeckel?
Yes.
Clyde-Onson?
Yes.
O'Dwyer?
Yes. June 17th meeting of the 34th
You
Council
were
is adjourned.
Closer.
Thank you.